Hello again. So around the beginning of August I put a video up showing harvesting vermicompost from a Dalek style compost bin which I keep worms in. This is the finished vermicompost, and if you watch the original video you'll know I didn't screen any worms out. I simply harvested the vermicompost. Any worms I saw I picked out, and I think there was about 15 or 20 worms which are working very low down. But obviously there's going to be still some worms left because I'm bound to have missed some. And you can see there's two there. So I just thought I'd show you a quick and easy way that I use to screen worms. I don't have one of those big sieve type contraptions that you see on YouTube videos for sifting out the vermicompost and separating out the worms. Basically my approach is to let the worms do all the work. So this is the vermicompost from the bin, and as you can see, even in the time that's elapsed, it's actually got somewhat finer than when I originally harvested, and that's because any worms that are in there are obviously working it, and the microbes and bacteria will carry on working it as well. But the technique that I use to draw up the worms from here is to simply put this wire mesh three-sided contraption that I bent out of, I think it's 1/2 inch, and then put in a layer of leaves or damp cardboard with some food scraps. This happens to be reasonably well composted guinea pig bedding with some bits and pieces in it, and I'm using that just because I happen to at the moment have a lot of it. So I'm just going to make a layer of that. You can see there's one worm there already. And then into this I'm going to add some food scraps. Fruit, I always find worms react quicker to fruit scraps rather than veg scraps. And I think that's because maybe the sugar content in the fruit scraps, they get covered in bacteria a lot quicker than potato peelings or carrot peelings. So I've just created a bit of a depression here, and all I'm going to do is add some rotten banana and apple core, which are sweet and sugary. So I expect that encourages the bacteria to grow quicker, which attracts the worms quicker. So some banana skin. All I'm going to do now is simply level that out and cover it and wait for a couple of weeks. When this was recorded, we were going through a very hot spell here in the UK. We had several days with temperatures over 30 degrees. People were going insane. So this is very dry, so I'm just going to water it down a little bit. And any water, obviously there'll be a bit of runoff, will go down into the vermicompost below, which is good for it. If you're storing vermicompost, you need to make sure air can get to it and you keep it moist at all times for it to sort of stay effective. And I'm simply just covering it now with some old wooden slats I have lying around. And that will sit there, and I'll come back to it in a couple of weeks' time. So this is the 20th of September today, and this is what it looks like. And you can see there's a couple of worms there already at the top. I didn't come back to this since I videotaped the last section, and it got very dry. I was a bit surprised about how dry it was. But the reason you can see now why this wire mesh contraption is three-sided is it's the same size as the blue recycling bins that I use. So I can simply pick this sort of three-sided cage up, if you like, and tip it into one of the bins, the recycling bins, and in effect I've started a new worm bin. Easy peasy. Now apologies here, but I got distracted with this lovely spider. I don't think his colours come out very well, but he's a sort of a bluey green round body. Lovely looking little fella. But he wasn't too happy with all the stuff going into this bin. He was rather keen to get out of the way and leave it. So I just gave him a little hand, and off he went. We have so many spiders in our garden, but I love them. So that's the vermicompost as it looks now, and the only other thing I'm going to do is make a little depression and add banana skin, and that's for any cocoons which haven't hatched. So in about 3 months' time I'll come back to this, and all being well, I would expect to find another small amount of worms around the banana skin, and they'll be from cocoons which haven't been screened out and I've missed. So that's it. I'm just going to cover that up and leave it sit for another 3 months. This is the bin. Off camera, to save a bit of time, I counted the worms and I found about 35, 40, something like that. So not a bad amount of worms to pull out, and again all done with a minimum of fuss and labour. I just let the worms do the work. So because this is very dry, I'm wetting it down. There's some worms there. They're a bit hard to see in this medium, but that's it. Simple and easy way to screen your worms out. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you have any comments, leave them down below. Any questions, I'll do my best to answer. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so. Thank you for watching. Oh look, plastic.